Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations in Horror, the podcast. I want to thank you for joining me, Kevin and L. Powers, for this amazing podcast. I am the owner operator of Something Wicked Entertainment and Events, and welcome to our program today. Now, if you have been with us, you will know that what we do is we take a single individual horror film. Doesn't matter what genre of horror, doesn't matter what decade of horror, we take that individual film. And me and my special guest dissect, critique, analyze, and in other words, have a really entertaining conversation about this film. We hope that our conversation will entertain you and enlighten you on the film, whether you have seen it before or not, or if you just need to watch it again as a refresher course. Now, that being said, the movie that we are going to be discussing today is probably in that category. A film that you may have watched, may not have even heard of, but you might want to take another closer look at it. Or, as my special guest today, Dave Watkins, thank you, Dave Watkins, for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
He might have different words to say about this film. Whether they are good or bad, I don't know. But let's talk about let's talk about Pet Sematary II. Now, what's the year? This is the 1992 version and not the recent sequel to the remake, which I believe is called Bloodlines.
Yeah, that one's actually a prequel to the remake. It's like the story from the original novel that the Judd character tells when he talks about what happened to him in the past. Judd's the main character of the prequel.
Yeah. I saw it once. I don't remember
Yeah.
much of it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't remember. But this one, actually, the new one, that stars Edward Furlong, is
With the this is a sequel to the original Pet Sematary, not the remake. Yeah.
I know it can get confusing for
Yeah.
everyone out there sometimes, especially if you if you never saw the original one or this first sequel, and just saw the remake and the remake sequel. It could probably get a little bit confusing. That's sort of the trend with a lot of these franchises nowadays that are being remade or rebooted, or however you want to just label them today. But we're going to discuss Pet Sematary 2 from 1992. So I gotta know, Dave, did you watch this movie when it originally came out, or did you watch it recently? Where is kind of like your background with this sequel?
Yeah, I saw this one in the movie theater in 1992.
Oh,
And I think when I went to the movie theater, somehow I got some like trading cards for some of the characters. They were giving them out at the screening.
no.
So I remember it was pretty cool. I think I got like three or four different trading cards for some of the characters in the film.
Interesting. I I didn't go to the movies to this one, surprisingly, since I did used to go see a lot of movies at the theater, but I did not go see this one at the theater at that time. I didn't see this one until it came out on VHS or DVD, whatever it was in '92. But I was a huge fan of both Edward Furlong and Anthony Edwards from ER. Everyone will probably know him for ER.
Well, I think that Anthony, that's the funny thing. ER was after this.
Yes, exactly.
This was 2 years before he did ER, but he is very well known for Top Gun.
Top
He
Gun.
played Goose in Top Gun, and also what was the other one?
Revenge of the
Yeah,
Nerds.
Revenge of the Nerds, and
Eh,
I think most people know him from Top Gun. I know him from me. When I think Anthony Edwards, I think ER myself.
yes.
But I think most people who don't watch ER, who didn't watch ER, probably think Top Gun with him.
Yeah. What's funny for me is I like those, and there's this old TV made for TV movie that I loved called Downtown that had him in it, where he was the star. And the thing is, he was never really the star of a lot of movies.
Yeah, right.
Like he was a supporting actor for a lot of stuff,
Yeah,
except for ER. ER, he was one of the main stars in there until they killed him off. But
yeah,
for the most part, even Revenge of the Nerds, after the first one, he's just barely in any of the sequels, if
yeah.
he's in them at all.
Well, I think he was just he was busy, but he didn't come back for the other ones. But he's in. There's just this is movie called Gotcha. I think it's what it's called
Yeah,
or something
gotcha.
like that.
Yeah,
Yeah. That
gotcha.
was always on like HBO or something.
All
They
the
played it
time.
all the time. Yeah.
with I think
It
it's
is a
Linda Fiorentino.
yeah, yeah. Is
Hello,
she in
Linda
it?
Fiorentino.
Yeah, I didn't realize she was in it. There's a movie called Mr. North too that he's in.
I still have never seen that one.
Yeah,
That was on
yeah,
my list for like a freaking decade. I've never seen it. I know of it. I know of it, but I've never.
right. I don't remember it, but I'm pretty sure I saw it, but I don't remember it that well. I remember Gotcha. I think that was on a bunch. It was like a spy film that was kind of okay. It wasn't that good, but it was okay.
Oh Jesus, dude! I love that movie. I got the.
Yeah,
So everyone out there listening to the show, even though we veered off to Anthony Edwards of all, that's not where I thought this conversation was
yeah.
going to go. But I have to admit that Gotcha I saw like a billion times as a kid, and I still own it as a VHS.
You
Um,
got it. All
I
right.
have it as VHS because I think they just put it on DVD not that long
Yeah.
ago, but I didn't know that when I got the VHS.
Well, the
Uh,
VHS is the one to have if it's better than the DVD, but yeah. But I want to. I mean, they need to release it on like a better version.
yeah.
I'd check it out. I hadn't seen it in so long. It might be better than I remember it. I do remember scenes from it. I remember them fairly vividly. Some of the scenes.
Oh, that movie was so much fun for me.
Yeah,
It's saying it's so much fun. To be honest with you, with this movie came out in the '90s, Pet Cemetery 2, I had a lot of fun with this movie.
yeah.
Probably because I liked Edward Furlong from Terminator 2, and then of course I followed him after this with like Brain Scan and a bunch of the other movies that he did after that. Pecker and like I knew Edward Furlong was like he
Yeah.
was the cool kid I liked and back then, and I saw a lot of his films, and so I think I liked this movie more than I probably should have.
I
Uh,
think well, the person that steals the show in this movie is Clancy Brown, though. Yeah, but he's like third build in the opening credits, but he steals the show. But Edward Furlong is pretty good in it. And I knew him from Terminator 2. He was right off of that. But there's also another actor who didn't do much more after this. Maybe two other films named Jason Patrick. He plays his friend who's like a bigger kid, and his performance is very like, it's subtle, but it's very convincing and realistic to me.
mm, mm, mm. So we've actually started talking about all the actors in this
Yeah,
movie.
yeah, yeah,
This is uh, oh, this is gonna be an odd one for me because when I probably should have never rewatched it because my memories of this movie were much fonder than when I rewatched the movie. I had
Well, yeah,
seen this movie in years until I rewatched it for the podcast, and I didn't like it anymore. I
yeah.
don't. Yeah,
I think what happened with me, I had that same feeling. Like I watched it last year, and I had that same feeling. I watched it again this time. I think I watched it about a year ago, and I watched it again this time, and I had a better appreciation for it. And I think that some of the things that took me back when I watched it last year, I was able to figure it out a little better why
uh,
they did it and things of that nature. But I'm sorry, go ahead and send me yeah.
no, I wasn't about to say.
Yeah.
I want you to get your thoughts out first. Uh,
Well, well, I want to know what you didn't like about it. So, and
so
maybe I could maybe change your mind on. I guess we'll see.
So, this could be because we watched the original Pet Cemetery recently as well for the podcast. And
Yeah,
the problem I have for this film is that they're both directed by Mary Lambert.
yeah,
The very first film I think is an extremely strong film.
yeah, yeah,
It's very depressing. It's nihilistic. And the thing is, there's grown up characters, and then of course there's the younger character, the characters in there as well. I think every one of the elements work extremely well, including the music and everything else. I don't see any of that talent that Mary Lambert put in the first film and this film. This film comes off as like a straight to DVD sequel to me. It's a lot of what I get from this is like it's cliche, it's contrived. It just seems so beneath what happened in the first film because Edward Furlong's character is the new kid in town. He gets bullied because we have to have bullies, and of course, I was like and his best friend has to be the outsider, that kid who also happens to be the stepson of the police chief. It just seems so contrived and like the first film is like so rich in the characters and the what happens to them, and this film just seemed like one big cliche after a cliche. And it did. I rewatching it did not help me at all with this film. It made me not appreciate nearly as much, except for the beginning. I like the beginning.
Yeah.
I
Um,
like the
yeah.
setup. I love the setup of it being you're watching the title credit sequence and you don't realize that it's really part of a movie. It seems
Yeah.
artificial, but it's all part of the movie set because Edward Furlong's character Jeff is on set where his mother's acting in the new horror film. And of course, an accident happens and she dies, which is what triggers the rest of the movie. But I liked how that all came into play because it reminded me a lot of what happened in Wes Craven's New Nightmare with a very similar scene.
Yeah. With
And
that,
I was fine
yeah.
with that.
Well, I think before I want to touch on something real quick before coming back to that. That scene is cool, but that the original one was written by Stephen King. The screenplay
Yes.
was written by him. This one wasn't. And the screenplay, it all comes down to the writing and not the directing, and why it's so much different. But to me, this one is the first one is very. The first one's really a classic, but this one is more often a comedy. It that unlike the other one had nothing. There's
No
nothing
comedy. Yeah.
in the original that was comedy. So I guess that's one thing that might make you appreciate the film is if you think it does have, unlike the first one, this one has a sense of humor. That opening scene, it's a cool set too because it's a gothic horror set.
Mm-hmm.
The mom's dressed up in a dress, like a very like elegant dress, and she comes down the stair. And right away, you're like you see that, and it looks like a Hammer horror movie or
Yes. Yeah.
something. Like right away, right before that, the opening credits that you see, they do have a shot of the dog like later on coming out of the pet cemetery having been buried, and then the opening credits which look all gothic like a little cartoony, a little gothic,
Mm-hmm.
and then you go into that and it's like wow, this looks kind of cool. And then the mom's on a set, and she has a tragic accident. The son's there too. Edward Furlong's her son, and he's there on the set, and then she goes to do the scene and she ironically dies doing the scene. I think she's supposed to die in the scene, but instead of that, she gets electrocuted by this fence. And all anyone can do is stand there and watch. But there's a scene in, you ever see that movie, The Believers, with
Yeah.
Martin
Yeah.
Sheen?
Mm-hmm.
That very similar thing happened to the mom in that one. And themes are very similar too. Now, it wasn't on a gothic set, but she's like in the kitchen and the milk gets spilled and she goes over and gets electrocuted and all they can do is watch her get electrocuted and it's pretty horrific both times it happens.
Mm-hmm.
But
No.
both of them are catalysts for the main plot or for the main characters in the
Yes.
films.
Yeah. And you might I think you're right in that and this was probably why watching these two within I guess 6 months when we watched the last one and commented on the first Pet Cemetery versus now, why they just don't gel for me anymore is because you're right. The first one's very depressing, very ominous, it's very dark. Whereas this one,
Yeah,
it's a lot more comedy in it because it's dark comedy because
yeah,
it's a very gruesome movie. Do not get this movie has some
yeah,
really
yeah.
graphic scenes that you would not expect in the film that for the most part might appeal to the much younger audience because the younger characters are the main characters in there. At no point is Anthony Edwards' father figure to Jeff really considered the main character. He's like the secondary, tertiary character that just happens to be his father there. Uh,
Well, yeah, I mean, I kind of disagree with that a little bit. I agree with it for most of the film, but there is a part near the end where suddenly Edward Furlong's character is taken out for the plot, and the dad becomes the protagonist for almost like 20 minutes near the end, and he ends up killing like the main villain during that part of time. But we should come back to that later. But there is a part though where he becomes the protagonist briefly because they were trying to do something. Now, here's the thing that I think with this film, other than the comedy part, which I really like and I appreciate, it is a very uneven film because it has this plot with Edward Furlong's character and the mom dies. And we'll get into like more of that later. But the idea is like Pet Cemetery. Somebody dies and you can bring them back to life. So
Mhm.
he's got a person that he can bring back to life, but she died like way before most of the plot, like weeks or a month or whatever. And then so there's that part of the plot, which should be the driving force in a way. But then the writer like focuses what really the meat and potatoes of the main plot is what's happening in this town, which is the kid, his friend, played by Jason McGuire, was it Drew? He
Drew,
has a dog, an abusive stepfather played by Clancy Brown, and then the dog dies and is brought back to life, and then later all of that, and then the abusive stepfather and all of that's like the main part of the plot. But then somehow they got to bring the mom back in later in a very inconvenient part. That's when Anthony Edwards' character becomes the main character briefly, because at that point, Edward Furlong's character, which you don't see this transition so much, he kind of flips his shit at one
yeah.
point, and it's not a good progression. You don't see the progression. It's not built into. It's built into it lightly at the beginning or heavy at the beginning, but then not in the middle, and then it comes heavy at the end.
Well, that's because a huge chunk of the middle actually deals with Drew and his relationship with his father, and Edward Furlong's character Jeff is just his best friend at this point. When
Yeah,
in reality, you would see it flipped. It would be Jeff going through everything and Drew helping him. It's really that whole second act is Drew because it's
yeah,
Drew's dog
yeah, yeah,
that gets killed,
yeah,
and then it is Drew's stepfather who gets killed, and Jeff's just there to help him bury it. Uh,
yeah. Right, exactly. And then it's like, which I think I like all of that stuff. I just think that the two ideas are there, but they almost seem like two separate
oh,
ideas,
yeah,
two separate movies in a way. It's almost like some characters are forgotten, like the mom and I guess they have like a house sitter or that comes in that's kind of like flirting with the
housekeeper.
dad, or but she's kind of forgotten for the middle part of the movie, and then shows back up like later on after like that part's resolved mostly.
Yeah, it,
But,
it, it,
yeah, there's some inconsistencies going on. It's like it is two different things going on in one movie.
well, yeah, well, I think it's not evenly distributed because, like you said, there's a huge chunk where it deals with Jeff trying to get over the fact that his mother has died, but
Yeah,
he doesn't seem to react to it as extremely as you would think he would by the time he gets to the end of the movie and he's bringing her back to life. It's just kind of like, okay, my mom died. I'm a little bit depressed, but hey, life goes on. He says, I'll just go help you clean out the stalls in the back, Dad, so I can get me a kitty. I was
yeah,
like,
yeah,
uh,
yeah,
having a cat in the film obviously calls back to Church from the original movie because that was one of the most iconic things from the first movie, other than Gage, the undead Gage, is the
yeah,
freaking Church the cat. Um, so I can understand having a kitty in the film to give his character some type of pet, despite the fact that Drew's pet is the driving force for the using of the burial ground. But you're right, they set that up, but for the most part of the second act, they kind of put Jeff's character as the secondary character of the story, and you're following everything, following Drew, even
yeah,
to the point where he brings back his father, which you kind of wonder why he would. His father's dead, just let him fucking be dead. He was abusive anyways. Why the hell do you bring him
yeah.
back to begin with?
Well, yeah, it's his stepfather. I think to me that's the biggest question of the film, and and I did find an answer for it, which I don't know if it's satisfactory, but the
Okay.
the director Mary Lambert says that her idea behind that, and obviously that is there's several things that happen like this in the movie that say that's when the movie changes. It changes to crazy after that. It goes like fucking nuts after that. But the idea was like the teenagers do stupid things and they don't think like adults do. Like in the first film, Lewis Creed, buries his son out of grief,
And the grief.
and he brings it back. And same thing with his wife later on.
Yeah, but he thinks he
But
can fix it. And he thinks he
yeah,
can fix it because it was his wife just died, and he
right,
takes her up there, and he thinks that she'll come back different because she just died. That was more logical. And
right. But what she's saying is that teenagers don't do logical things. They don't think like adults do. That's what she's saying. That's her explanation to it. But there are a couple things to this. With they bury the dog, and the dog comes back. That's like when that they bring the dog into the bedroom, and Drew sees the dog. You can see instant regret on his face. Like, what have I done? Get the dog away from me. I don't. It's not the same dog. He knows it.
uh-huh.
So the question is, like, the stepfather dies. The dog kills the stepfather, like, graphically and awesomely, but then they decide to bury him in the pet cemetery, which is the baffling part of the film. The question of, like, why would they do it? Yeah, and it causes a lot of problems. They actually like him better for a while after he comes back. He's a better person than he was before because he's like
Yeah,
he was a real dick, like a real dickhead, and he was once he comes back, they seem to like him a little better, even though he
till he goes crazy.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, here's some. I guess we should talk about the character before and after. So here's some stuff that he does before. The mom, I guess who's his wife and Drew's mom.
mhm.
She's like several times earlier before he's brought back as it's kind of a zombie, but I guess we'll talk about that what they are in a minute. But he before that happens, she several times during the film she tries to like make out with him or try to get him to have sex, and he's more focused on trying to be in control of the kid. Like he wants to make sure the kid is doing what he's supposed to do, or the dog is coming after his rabbits, and he wants to go. He goes out and tries to shoot the dog, and later on it's at Halloween, and the mom tries to get him, interested in having sex with her, and then he's like, "Where is Drew? He's not here, and he's not, where is he?" And then that's when he goes to the cemetery where they're having the party. But
Mhm.
after they bring him back, the first thing he does is he comes in there, and the mom's in the bed, and he rapes her. So all of a sudden he's interested in having sex with her, and his neck's all messed up, and then he's like doesn't care. He's not controlling anymore. He doesn't care what the kids are doing. He lets them do what they want to do, and he actually helps Edward Furlong's character bring the mom back later on.
Yeah, and it was well. First of all, he gets rid of the bully, Clive. Clive, I think it's
Yeah, Clyde, like
Clyde.
Bonnie and Clyde. Yeah,
Okay, yeah. So he, the bully thing. It only dawns on me now, years later, that that's so freaking such a huge cliche that they have to have a freaking bully in here.
yeah.
And of course, you kind
He,
of
yeah. It is he's very intense. It's good. It's a good performance, and it does remind me that whole setup of this film reminds me of Hocus Pocus, which came out a year later. Like a lot of that reminds me of Hocus Pocus, like riding around on the bicycles, the bullies,
yeah,
and that kind of happens in that. But this bully is hardcore bully, and he's got which I also had bullies in school at like dicks like that, and they get like a group of people around them, and they all like get into it, and not maybe not as hardcore as they do in this film, but I had that shit happen.
yeah.
And
Well,
yeah, yeah, but no, it was never like I don't understand. Yeah, it's hard to understand the mentality of a bully, but it is a I guess it's an addiction, like where you want that power, and then he picks on Edward Furlong's character, like Jeff, and he's actually so he starts targeting him because his mom died, and he's like, and he gets he's jealous of him, and he's a bigger kid than him, and then they basically they steal the cat from him, they drive off, and then they go to the pet cemetery, and then what's interesting is like the Edward Furlong's character gets a punch in, he starts talking shit about his mom, and he punches him in the face. Which is, a lot of times in the films when a bully gets punched in the face, like in A Christmas Story, for instance, the bully backs down and cries
Yeah.
and oh my God, I got punched. But he don't do that. This bully gets up and beats the shit out of him, and he keeps beating the shit out of him until he can't move anymore.
Which,
And then he never gets another punch in. He gets one punch and it didn't do anything.
yeah, which was a problem for me because when I rewatched it, and when I was rewatching it, which was a problem for me because Edward Furlong goes to during Halloween goes to the
Yeah,
pet cemetery party that's
yeah,
being put together by the bully. I'm like, why if you got your
yeah,
ass kicked by this bully and he keeps picking
yeah,
on you, why the hell are you going to a Halloween party that he's
yeah.
throwing at the pet cemetery?
Right,
Like,
yeah. I mean, if some asshole beat the shit out of me, I definitely would not show back up anywhere that guy would be.
yeah.
If I did, I'd have some brass knuckles with me or something. It's
So
just
yeah, and and we all know that that's the reason. That's part of the way that they keep the bully in the film because he's Edward Furlong's surface antagonist. He has to have some type of antagonist, and of course, by
yeah.
the end of the film, the undead version of Clyde, he has to overcome that undead version of Clyde. But some of the stuff at the first and second act um are well done. I know we were going to talk about what exactly we see these characters as the undead Clyde and the undead Clancy Brown character. I can't remember his character's name, but
It's
Gus, Gus,
Gus.
Gus.
Yeah,
Like his name is
yeah,
Gus.
yeah,
Because in the original film, the undead characters don't really say shit, and they do feel like zombies, just more knowledgeable zombies.
Well, you don't see that many of them in the first film
Oh, you
because
see two.
you see Gage who can't talk anyway because he's a kid, and you see the cat, and then the mom shows up at the end, but it's very brief.
Yeah.
You don't even get to see any like if she could talk, it was so brief that she wouldn't have talked yet.
Well, Gage only has the one line in the whole the one line when he's almost about to die because he's been poisoned. He
Yeah,
says, "No fair,"
yeah,
it falls over. But
right.
in this film, Gus talks all the damn time when he's
Yeah.
undead, and then of course Clyde talks as much as well. Um, I
Yeah. I think yeah, I mean it's interesting though the way that they handled it, and this is the first time they've done this, and they did do this in the remake
remake.
and the prequel. They have like the Gus character who is a character who is brought back in the pet cemetery, actually kill somebody else, drag that body to the pet cemetery and bring that body back. That Clyde, and that this is like really the first time that's happened. They do that a lot in the remakes.
Remake,
It's
yeah.
it's a pretty good idea, and it's like really the I think the only from this film it's the idea that wasn't in the Stephen King novel to begin with that they use in everything else going forward. It's a pretty scary thing if you can bring back a ghoul or whatever they are, and then they're able to keep killing more people and then bring them back like them.
Yeah. It's an interesting concept. I will not deny that it was a problem I had when I watched the original, when I watched this in the '90s. But after watching the remakes, which really leans into that concept a lot, I was perfectly fine with it on the rewatch.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
yeah, because for me in the '90s, I was thinking I didn't want my undead people to be talking. I just want them to be killing. Um,
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Really like if you look at the remakes, though, they do it a lot differently than this.
yeah.
This is definitely a lot different. Like Clancy Brown's character has layers once he comes back.
Mm,
He does eventually go completely psycho, but he kind of switches back and forth because he goes from that to there's something. I mean, yeah, I don't know if maybe it's inconsistency, but with it, but it's actually it's quite hilarious and really seen still in performance everything that he does within the film.
I think it's odd. You're right, inconsistent or odd because when Gus, the zombie Gus, undead Gus, steals his Jeff's mother's body from the exhumes her body from the grave and brings it up to the Indian burial ground. He tells Jeff that he has to bury his own.
Yeah.
But then, he kills Clyde and he buries Clyde on his own.
Well,
You know,
maybe because he killed him, it is his own. Maybe I don't know, but to me, it's your own is yours.
so
But yeah, but yeah, that I guess that is an inconsistency. It probably because I would think it would mean that it is his mom, or if he killed like he does kill like his wife and his stepson, he could probably bring them back to life. Is what I would think.
But I mean, yeah, and why doesn't he do that? Well, actually, I think their bodies are probably completely mangled now that I think about it. But after
Yeah.
Gus ends up killing his own family, uh, he doesn't bring them back. He just brings back Clyde. But
Uh,
if he's
I do have an explanation for that, which I think that this one and the original one don't do this as much as the remakes, but the Pet Cemetery itself has a very big pull, a psychological pull on everybody who encounters it. And some of the things that these characters may be doing are not their decisions. The Pet Cemetery, once it gets involved, and it's not the Pet Cemetery, like it's an
the
Indian
Indian burial
burial ground beyond the Pet Cemetery, which is uh, it's called I guess the Micmac Indians, which is like a nickname or the American name. It's like a Mi'kmaq Indian is how you really say it, I believe. Which are a real Indian tribe, which they should have just made up an Indian tribe, like a fake one. I don't know why they had to use a regular one, but the idea was that tribe had the Indian burial ground, and when Winnebago cursed it, so anything that was buried there came back, but not quite right.
hmm
But there is a power to that, and the Winnebago that cursed it that I think is almost hypnotic, and it really pulls people to it. That's how a lot of things, decisions that characters make that don't seem rational, that could be explained that way. And it's really which that's a good thing they did in the remakes. They really focused on that a lot more, and they made that to me more believable, or more like on the surface, where here it's subtly, and I don't even think they knew that, but I think that that is part of it.
mm, interesting. No, I mean, yeah, I think, and the thing is, I may have questionable opinions about the remakes. I'm glad they actually did the remakes because I think that whole concept of the Pet Cemetery and what Stephen King originally created is a really cool fucking ideal. Um, Unfortunately, it's not been an ideal that has produced a lot of
Yeah,
like a real franchise. We got two films in the original run, and then we got two more films with the quick succession right afterwards.
yeah,
Years later, I can't remember when the remakes came out, but that was like a huge
yeah,
chunk of
yeah.
time in between the two. Um, but the
But
ideal that you can make, there's an Indian burial ground beyond the pet cemetery where you could bring back the dead is like rife for like all types of different types of stories that could be done here. Um, it's a so I was always open to whatever stories came out. With this film, Pet Cemetery 2, I was really open to whatever story they came up with. Some of the stuff was not so logically sound for me. I don't mind. Like I said, you're right. Clancy Brown gets steals every scene he's in once he becomes actually before he becomes an undead
yeah,
uh character, and when he becomes an undead character because he's talking with that he's trying to be that I think a thick Maine accent, and he's trying to
yeah,
be this really authoritative police officer who's trying to turn his stepson to the right way, in his opinion. Um,
yeah,
and it's weird that he has this weird obsession with these fucking rabbits. So,
yeah. I think yeah. I mean, there's the scene where he shoots the dog, which he does by accident, and it's a really good performance by Clancy Brown because he comes out. and he's pissed off the dog keeps messing with the rabbits. And
Mhm.
he comes out and the dog's running off. The kid's like, no, 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 don't shoot him. And he just like shoots into the woods, not thinking he's actually really going to hit the dog. And he's kind of like, you could tell from his expression that he's like, oh shit, I shot the dog. And then after that, then he snaps and he's just like, well, the dog deserved it. He shouldn't have been messing with the rabbits. It's,
Yeah. Uh, I'm actually, I don't know why that whole rabbit thing is in there, but it does make for a really gruesome scene when he's undead Gus and he's killing all the
yeah.
rabbits and skinning them in front of Jeff and Drew as they're just sitting on the porch watching them. And of course, the scene where they're all cooked and they're having rabbits
Yeah.
dinner, and they didn't cut the rabbits apart. It's just one big freaking rabbit without a head, and that's what
Yeah.
he's throwing on his plate. And that stuff to me has always been funny. You're right. There is some humor in this that wasn't in the original ones, but I think most of it for me came from Clancy Brown. Uh,
Yeah. But during that same scene though, when they're sitting at the table, that's when his neck is all jacked up from the dog biting it, and he starts eating some mashed potatoes and start oozing out of his neck, and then the one kid's trying to hide it so the mom won't see it.
yeah.
It's like some Dead Alive shit going on
Oh
there.
damn,
Yeah.
you're right. It is just like that alive. The dinner scene. Oh my
Yeah,
god,
yeah.
that's crazy. I never thought about that.
But it's gross though, and it's
Well, a lot of this, the thing about this movie is it may have, like these teenagers as the protagonists and the main characters, but it is a very gruesome film. I mean,
yeah,
Clancy Brown, more or less when he kills Clyde is using the back of his freaking motorcycle to do it.
yeah,
It's a very gruesome
yeah.
movie. The rabbits getting skinned and,
Yeah. It's funny too when he kills Clyde. It's the same thing. Like when he accidentally kills the dog, he accidentally kills
yeah.
Clyde when he's a zombie, but he accidentally does it, and then he beat. He's like, "Oh fuck it," and then does it some more. You know?
Yeah, yeah. Uh, yeah, I'm thinking about it now. I'm seeing like all the. It's always been humorous to me, but I'm seeing more of the humor now, and how much of it comes from
Yeah, Clancy Brown's performance.
Clancy
Yeah,
Brown's performance.
yeah.
Uh,
But, but even like, but even the reaction, like you talk about, like them sitting there watching him skin the rabbits, or sitting at the dinner table, like watching him eat, and he like, at one point he starts laughing, and they start laughing too, and he like slams on the table, and they stop laughing.
you kind of wonder what's going through the undead Gus's brain.
Yeah. But the crazy shit is like the character does things like there's like talk about him off screen too. It's like there's a like when he comes to they say he comes to the funeral of after he kills like that's like he kills like the wife and the stepson and then he comes to their funeral. Like, why did the truck driver not see him there? Like when he ran him off the road. But then I can't even imagine this character coming to the. Did he get dressed up in a suit when he came to to the funeral, or did he keep his cop suit on, or what was he looking like at the funeral?
Oh, I didn't even think about that, but yeah, that's right.
But it's just funny when like there's several times where things are said in dialogue like, oh, you should have seen him at the funeral, when it's like I really would have liked to seen him at the funeral.
Especially the Gus character. And Gus and Anthony what's this? Chase.
Yeah,
Such odd names. Chase have their
yeah,
little confrontation in the final act of the film. I think Clancy Brown had a lot of fun doing this movie, despite the film's flaws. I think he really really got into what he was doing in this movie and it shows.
yeah. And I think like Anthony Edwards plays it fairly straight. He doesn't have a lot to do. It's
I
still
don't.
near the end. But he
Yeah,
does have there's some weird sequences. There's two dream sequences that are somewhat similar that tie the mom into it more. But
yes.
they have to do with the dog and the mom. And I think this is the Pet Cemetery itself creating these dreams. Like the first one is the kid with Jeff, played by Edward Furlong, has a very similar dream to his dad, where he sees his mom sitting in this chair with a wolf head, and
Hmm.
she talks to him regular, and then suddenly she has a wolf head, and he wakes up and the wolf's actually sitting in the chair, and that wolf in the Pet Cemetery is putting these dreams into these characters to bring the idea of bringing the mom back to life. And then the second time is the dad is similar situation, a little different because the mom's like having sex with him, and then
Mhm.
she suddenly has like a wolf head, and then he wakes up and the wolf's actually on top of him, and luckily the his clothes are still on, but it's not even a wolf; it's like a wolf dog. But then yeah, but I think that is that's part of I think the Pet Cemetery trying to get into these characters' heads, and it works with the son, and it maybe eventually would have worked with the dad as well had it kept working on him.
No, that's interesting. I didn't think about that because I did think about why these dream sequences are in the film and why they are the way they are. I did think about that when I rewatched it, but that's a good point to make is that it could be the pull of the cemetery on these characters.
Well,
I
especially since they're the same dreams, and they both it's two different characters having the same type of dream.
That's interesting. I never thought about that then.
Yeah,
I do think that towards the end of the second act and into the third act, you're absolutely right. They give more for Chase's character to do because he finds out that the blood that he sent off from Zowie's the dog's name,
yeah,
from Zowie is from a dead corpse, and of course the doctor tells him the last time I saw something
yeah.
like this is from the Creed family's pet. And of course,
Right.
that
Yeah,
leads us into a mystery for Edward Furlong. Anthony Edwards' character. We already know what's going on, but he
yeah,
has to find out, and that gives him something to do. Which
yeah.
I think that's good because he doesn't really do much before.
Yeah, not until then. It's evolved a little bit with the plot because he is a vet. Like the first film, Lewis Creed was a doctor. Here, he's a veterinarian, which kind
Mhm.
of brings him into the plot a little bit because he has to. He's doing the investigation on the dog. He brings the dog in and he has no heartbeat and he's got a gunshot wound and he's trying to heal it, but it's not healing anymore because it's
Mhm.
dead. So he's involved with it a little bit, but not that much. Not like as much as Clancy Brown is
Yeah, yeah.
with anything. But here, but this, geez, what the heck was I going to say? I got, yeah, okay. Here's what I was going to say. I was going to say about the Creed family. Now we do learn a little bit about the Creed family from the
Mhm.
previous film. We don't learn a lot about them, but we see the house and the mailbox has Creed on it. The house is vacant. It hasn't been like anybody else in there. I think it was it been 3 years or maybe I guess it's been maybe longer. But
I don't know if
I,
they.
the,
I don't know if
I
they
think they
mentioned
made
it or not.
the the director Mary Lambert wanted to do a story about the daughter
Yes.
Ellie Creed, who's the only surviving member of the family from the first film, and she wanted that character to be the main character of this, but the producers didn't feel it would work for like I guess maybe
Female
like they think
character.
a female character in the audience is like a teenage female character. So they don't have her in there, but they do. There is a scene where Clyde is telling a story around the campfire, which is pretty cool that they have Halloween in this film. So it is kind of a Halloween film a little bit.
Yeah.
But he's telling a Halloween story about Ellie Creed, which may or may not be true. He says that she went crazy, killed her grandparents, and ended up in an insane asylum. So whether or not that's true, we do get a little bit of information about the Creeds. We get it from that. We get it from the doctor later on when he's
Hmm.
talking about the cat. But that it's kind of cool the way they try to tie some into I mean the original one.
Yeah. Well, and you're right. I did like the fact that they finally gave uh Chase something to do in the film, uh, because he goes off to see the original doctor that did the blood work on Church, and of course that doctor is just warning him, get out of the town.
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
It's
I
like
had
it's a really short scene though. It's like really short, and the doctor's like loony. He's really just like can't even have a conversation with the guy. He's so nuts.
after he saw the undead cat, he just went crazy. And of course, he hears about what happened to the Creeds, and it just all comes down. But that whole concept there, not only links it to the very first film, but it kind of allows us to see Chase actually become a proactive character for
Yeah.
especially the next steps in the film, which then have him encountering Gus.
Yeah.
Because I think after that he goes to see Gus because he finds out that Gus exhumed his wife's body, and he goes to go figure out what the hell's going on, only to realize that Gus is half fucking dead, and they have
Yeah.
their little altercation there.
Yeah, yeah, and he's got the house in a state of disarray, and he's got like rabbit all over the place, and he fights him, and he actually gets hurt by the dog. The dog bites Anthony Edwards' character Chase on the shoulder, and a really gnarly looking wound.
Mhm.
But then he ends up fighting Gus, and he's successful. He ends up killing him again for the second time and blows the house up. Gets out of there, and then he goes back to his house where all hell's broken loose. The mom has been brought back to life, and and again there's this nanny character at the house that is like really underdeveloped, but kind of an interesting character, but it was very underdeveloped.
Her character comes off when we first see her as like a super fan of Jeff's mother Renee. She makes those comments about the outfits when they fall down the steps, and then of course she gets intoxicated with dressing up in those clothes when she
Yeah,
finds them, which is how she goes up in the attic where she already knows the clothes are up there from the conversation at the very beginning of the film. But she goes up there, she dresses in some of Renee's clothes, and of course doesn't realize the real Renee has been resurrected. And she gets a nice good death up there uh, by Renee.
yeah, and it's like, yeah, I mean, it works in a way. I think it's underdeveloped, but
Yeah, like
I like the idea though. The idea works, but it's just the fact that he has the clothes out there, and she goes up there and puts them on. Like it, I think it's just because there's so much time between when you see her and that happens, because she's hardly in the movie.
I think she's like only one other scene before that because she makes a comment.
But
uh
yeah, well, I think he leaves her there to watch Edward Furlong or something. But
there's there's a scene where she's in the kitchen with Chase and Jeff, and she makes that comment, and Jeff says, well, you're not my mother. uh
yeah,
and then I think we don't see her again until towards the end of the movie after that.
yeah.
It
Was
says
that
that
like,
there
yeah,
might
yeah.
Well, I got the sense that there were some scenes that were just cut with her.
Yeah, you probably it's probably is that probably is the case, because they wouldn't have been very interesting scenes. It would have been more of the same, but it definitely doesn't help when you don't see that character for so long
Yeah,
and
yeah.
suddenly she pops back in. And it's same thing with Anthony Edwards' character. He's not in like long parts of the film.
Yeah. Nah.
But yeah,
It,
but then
it,
yeah, is that Drew character and the Clancy Brown's character are in the middle a lot, and it really
mhm.
focuses on them, and it's like it's a pretty devastating blow when the Drew character is killed and the mom. I think that's something that really sticks out. They get killed like a lot earlier than you would think, but the driving force they're the driving force of the movie for a good 30 minutes of the
Mhm.
film.
Yeah.
And
No,
then
no.
it's like, yeah, devastating when they get killed like they do.
Well, I think that is like kind of the mark of the end of the second act. It's like the whole second act kind of tethers with the Drew and Clancy Brown character, and even his Drew's mother's character with Edward Furlong's Jeff just being like right there, but not really in the middle. And then
Yeah.
once their story is over, we jump back to Chase and Jeff's story. More so Jeff, because I think the filmmakers want to keep a lot of Jeff's kind of psychological change hidden until that scene where we see um Gus bringing the body up to the Indian burial ground for Jeff to bury, and then
Yeah.
Jeff's just waiting. Jeff knows that she's gonna come back that night. He simply is waiting up in the attic for her to show up. And then it's weird. His kind of justification for everything is kind of weird. Plus the fact that his mother doesn't seem to have decayed at all. Uh,
Yeah. That's the biggest thing I think to me, like continuity wise, is that the mom looks terrific. I would think even like 5 days of being underground like that would you would look really bad. I mean, you'd spoil. It's not like you're being refrigerated or something like that.
I don't know like the how fast or how slow bodies decay after they've been embalmed or anything like that. But you got to keep that in mind too. She's actually been embalmed. She's
Yeah,
not like
yeah,
the rest of the characters. Uh,
yeah,
but I don't think anyone really pays much, like they're making these movies and they're not thinking like that because even in the first movie, Gage would have been embalmed as well. You would think he
yeah,
seems to come back with no problems.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, even though Gage is like it worked a lot better because it was such an immediate thing. This mom
Has
has
been
been,
great
it's
for a
been
while.
I don't know how long it's been, but it's been at least the course of the film plus weeks before that because they actually moved
Hmm.
from one place to another, and so it's been like a while. I would think that I don't know. I mean, it's I don't think the pet cemetery. I don't think the pet cemetery or the Indian burial ground can heal anything.
They
But
haven't so far. Everyone
yeah,
usually comes back with the same wounds they had when they died.
yeah, because the dog and in the first film, the guy that gets hit by the car comes back all jacked up looking. He doesn't get buried in the pet cemetery. He's more of a ghost, and
Oh
that's
yeah,
actually not used.
that's not using any of the
Yeah, yeah. That's a
Pascal.
cool idea though.
Pascal.
Yeah, Pascal. Yeah, I really like that character, but that's it didn't work as good in the remake, but in the original Pet Cemetery, it worked really good.
Yeah,
And it's I don't know, yeah, it's that yeah, but I guess that's he doesn't he looks jacked up, but he's not someone who's been brought back. But Clancy Brown's got the big gaping neck wound, and when they bring Gus back, and he's got that still. So if she's in underground in a casket for 2 weeks to a month or longer, she's gonna look like not like she does. She looks perfect.
it
Everything
looks
looks
perfect.
perfect. Yeah, like she looks like a movie star. Like
And
just like she did when she dies. And as a matter of fact, she doesn't even have
the
the
scars,
scar from when she died because she
no,
remember she go into the gate and she had these scars that the gate like burn into her face.
yeah, the scars come back after she starts burning up in the house, um, which is also odd. Like she for some reason she starts the fire and she stays in the fire.
Yeah,
And, like uh,
doesn't yeah.
we haven't seen any of the other undead characters actually willingly commit suicide for themselves, so it seems really odd that she does this. Um,
Yeah, yeah, I don't have an explanation for it. I'll think about it though. I'll see if I can come up with something.
you
But
know,
yeah, she doesn't seem like she commits suicide. I think that maybe she's scared of the fire. Maybe fire is
yeah, but she
like,
started the fire, so you would
yeah, yeah. Didn't the fire get started though when he electrocutes the Clyde character and he blows up?
she purposely, I think, drops the thing. She purposely drops all the candles and
Oh,
lets everything else burn.
I
And
gotcha.
she just sits on the bed. She just sits on the bed.
Yeah.
Like she could have gotten out, but she just sits in the bed.
I think she says like she says the title line is "dead is better." I think
Yeah,
she wants them all to be dead or something. I think that's what the idea was. I think is she wanted to kill all of them in burn, but yeah, It- it's all that with a mom at the end. There's a lot about that doesn't quite work. The idea works about him wanting to bring his mom back. It should have been really gross and it should have been scary when the mom comes back. It shouldn't have been like her looking like a movie star and all that.
well, that's a good point. When she is finally revealed, it turns Jeff away. Jeff turns away from her after seeing what he's done, but he doesn't.
Yeah,
Instead,
because she looks beautiful still, and she's and she's like over there hugging him, and he's acting like a real weirdo. It's,
But keep in mind that at that point, he's trying to he's fighting off Clyde, undead Clyde, and of course
yeah,
Anthony Edwards had to do his thing with her, but then he gets knocked out.
yeah. That was one of those things where it's like, okay, Edwards' character, he's been the hero long enough. Let's knock him out. And but she actually brings the Clyde character into it. Like Gus brings him back to life. Again, like these characters are the Pet Cemetery or the Indian Burial Ground, and they're not the characters. They are the evil, the Winnebago that's causing everything. That's what they are in in certain ways. So that like the stuff that they do, even though it may not be consistent, that is like her. She brings them there to kill them. Opens the door, brings the Clyde guy in there because Edward Furlong's characters, like Jeff's thinking that he's reuniting with his mom, but she really wants to kill them all.
Ah, good point to make. Yep. I think that probably makes it seem much more better in that they have their own agenda. Um, Jeff thinks that he's doing something to bring his mother back, and it's going to be for him. But in reality, these undead characters are coming back, and they have their own agenda, and they're working with each other to get that agenda. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe the only way that Gus can get the undead mother back is by allowing the son Jeff to bury her. He can't bury her. Who knows?
And he is like earlier on that character says he used to be high school sweethearts with her, so he does have
Oh,
a
yeah, that's right.
connection to her. And he says some more stuff like that to the dad. He's kind of like being confrontational with him, like a dickhead or whatever. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, 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 I forgot about that. You're right. There is that conversation that Gus makes that little story that we used to be sweethearts.
yeah, yeah. It's like it's weird though because it is such a like that first 20 minutes have a lot of like build up without the mom and that the nanny character, and then the middle part is they completely drop those elements and then they bring them back for the last 30 minutes.
Hmm.
So it makes it the movie a little uneven, but I really like the center part of the film a lot. And
Mm.
I do like the ideas. I do like the idea about, and like I think you said before, like even the build up of the whole build up works really well. Once they bring Clancy Brown's character back, if you can't get past the fact that they shouldn't have done it and why did they do it, the guy, the dog kills the guy. And they didn't do it. The dog killed him. No
Hmm.
one's ever going to be like, "Hey, you guys, it's your fault. You brought the dog." Yeah, it's their fault. They brought the dog back, but no investigation's ever going to tie them to the crime. He's dead. They don't need to bring him
White
back.
Mark.
Yeah. So, and after that, like they all would have been fine had they just like let him be dead, other than the dog. But it is the Pet Cemetery. And it is like the draw of the Pet Cemetery. It is an addiction. Once you bury something in the Pet Cemetery, the addiction to want to do more is all part of it. Whether or not it reads in this film and it makes everything whether or not it clicks, that is the explanation. But it doesn't. But at the same time, when you're watching it and you see them do it, the only thing I think most people are thinking is the only reason they're burying him is to move the plot forward.
Hmm.
Because without a dead this happens earlier in the film than the first film. Without a dead person, a very dangerous person in this one, unlike the kid's dangerous, but this is an adult who was dangerous before he was undead.
Hmm.
To bring someone back that powerful is it's a pretty scary thing, and it happens fairly early in the movie, about halfway through.
Yeah. No, I agree with you on that. I mean, in the original film, there's a lot of character development, a lot of setup before even when Church gets killed. And then, of course, Church doesn't really kill anyone else. You just know that he's a menace to everyone
Yeah.
there. And then, of
Yeah,
course,
he's this dog is a little more vicious. The dog
yeah.
is selective in who he kills. He kills Gus to protect Drew, but the animals don't seem to have the same agenda sometimes as the people do because it was a protection thing, and it never really tried to. He does attack. Attack Chase, Anthony Edwards' character, like later on.
Hmm.
I mean, I guess maybe he is kind of helping the Pet Cemetery people, but he's not like the cat from the first one and the dog in this one. They do messed up stuff, but they don't seem as they're not as aggressive as the people are when they've been brought back.
So speaking of that, we haven't we've touched upon the entire plot of this movie and everything and motivations, all the characters, but we haven't talked about like this movie is we maybe a little bit. This movie is a very gory film compared to the first film. Uh,
Yeah,
the first film didn't have as much gore in it for
yeah.
gore's sake because you felt uneasy with some of the imagery in the very first film, but this film actually has gore in it.
Yeah.
Do you
And
think?
it's yeah. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was about to say, how do you think that is effective in this film as opposed to the original film?
Well, like when I watched this film originally, I thought it was terrific. And I watched it a year ago. I watched all four Pet Cemeteries together a
Oh
year
wow.
ago. Yeah, and I did a video on it on my channel actually. But I thought this was the worst one out of them because it was so inconsistent with everything else.
Hmm.
Upon that watch, now this time I watched it without I watched the other one last time we talked about it, which has been a little while,
Hmm.
and this time I watched it without even thinking about the first one, and I thought about it by itself, and I think all of it is a lot of fun. It's not as graphic as say something like Dead Alive, but
Oh
it
no.
has similarities to it and not as goofy as that, but it has similarities to something like that. And I really appreciate that. But as far as it fits into the canon of the other Pet Cemetery films, it is kind of the only one that plays it as a comedy a little bit.
Hmm.
It still has devastating things that happen within the film and very dark, horrific things, but it does play it a little lighter for them like than any of the other ones, and a lot more graphic with the violence.
Uh, yeah, which seems, I think, well, for me, it seems a little bit at odds because you have your protagonists being these young kids, and then of course you have all these extremely gory situations. So I'll kind of wonder exactly what and who the audience was that they were appealing to with this film when
Yeah.
they made it. Um,
Well, I had to have been like kids my age at the time,
well, like
probably
I said,
like
I
like
enjoyed the
15,
movie.
15 or 16 year olds or something. But I mean that was what they were going for, I guess. But it's it wasn't that far off from the first film. Was it the first film 88 or 89 or something? This
I
was
think
only
it's 89,
yeah.
maybe.
So
I
this
have
is not yeah, this is 92. So it's not that far off, but I guess the landscape it must have changed dramatically for them to treat this the way that they did treat it.
Well, remember the first movie just barely got made because they were in the middle of, I think, some one of the strikes.
Yeah, right, a writer
And they
strike.
ended up making the script because the script was ready to go. It was already ready. They lucked out that, the studio needed a movie. They needed to finance a movie, and this one was already ready to go, and so they made it. Um,
Right.
that one made money, and therefore we got Pet Cemetery 2, also directed by Mary Lambert. But Stephen King didn't come back to write the script. Uh,
Yeah.
they hired Richard Uten, who unfortunately, when I looked him up, hadn't really done anything of at all of note. He did Journey to the Mysterious Island, uh, Lionheart, and at one episode of The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr. And I was like,
Yeah, that's odd.
I was like, why? How did he get to write this sequel? I was
Yeah.
like, wow, this was so weird to me when I looked this up.
I mean, I feel like it's so weird that Mary Lambert directed both of the films because they're so different,
So different, yeah.
and it feels like she didn't have like she must not have had complete control over what was going on because it's like it definitely doesn't seem like the same person directed both films. It, it's I mean the scripts are completely different. maybe some pull, maybe a producer or the writers or something had a major like hand in what was being seen on screen, especially when it comes down to like how much how less subtle this one is compared to the first one. The first one has a lot of subtlety to it. This one has none.
Well, and what's funny is that like this one feels very much like, and I'm going to say this about her movie. This feels very much like her inferior sequel, Urban Legends Bloody Mary, as opposed to her other movie that I really enjoyed, which is The In Crowd, which is
Yeah.
I both films I doubt many people still remember, but The In Crowd was a much it felt like she had more control over the look and feeling of the film, kind of like what she did on the very first Pet Cemetery. Whereas, her Urban Legends movie just felt like a straight to DVD flick, which is why at the
Yeah.
beginning of this episode, I kind of said, this movie feels like a straight to DVD movie. It doesn't feel nearly like a refined film like she did with the original Pet Cemetery. And so it was really odd
Yeah.
to me.
I don't. Yeah, I mean, I think it. I don't feel like it's a direct to DVD movie. I feel like it is a theatrical film, but I don't. But it's not. It doesn't match the tone of the original one.
No, no.
I think what's very telling about it is the box office numbers. The original one was $11.5 million budget. Box office 57.5 million in 1989, which is that's a pretty good that's a good number for a horror film in that time frame. But this one made money, but it didn't make as much as the first one. So the $8 million budget, which is pretty. I don't know how the other one was a lot bigger than this one. This one had like a lot bigger stars in it. Like Edward Furlong was just on Terminator 2, and Anthony Edwards and Clancy Brown, obviously from Highlander at that point, but they may not have to pay him that much, but they obviously didn't have to pay. It may have been a writer strike situation that caused the other budget to inflate like it did. But so this one made his budget was $8 million. It made $17.1 million at the box office. So it still made money. It doubled its budget, but it's not like the first one. The first one was made a lot of money.
Yeah, yeah. And that's why, and it's good to you say that because I never knew how much this movie ever made at the box office. I always knew that the first one was successful because it was one of those films, and it's so odd. It's so odd. We all us horror fans absolutely love the original Pet Cemetery. Stephen King loves it. He wrote it. It was one of his better screenplays that he wrote. Critics did not like the first one. But
Yeah, they think it's mean, and it is a mean
oh
story.
yeah, well,
It's
the original
yeah,
novel is
yeah.
it's the novel Stephen King almost never got published because he felt it was too dark. You
Yeah.
know, uh,
It,
it, you know,
it
yeah.
and it is dark, but for some reason it works. I think it works really well. Actually, I mean, I've liked all four of the films. Yeah, but in a different way. Obviously, the first one to me is the best one, but I mean, I like all four of them as far as watching them. Yeah, I wasn't expecting to like the remake. It took me years to watch it because I heard so much bad stuff about it. When I did watch it, I was like, okay, that's a lot better than I was expecting it to be.
You know what I will say about the remake, the first one, anyways. I will say that if you've never seen the original film, and you haven't read the book, the remake is actually a really good movie. I when I watched it, I had those misconceptions about it too. I was like, it can never be better than the original Mary Lambert version. It couldn't, and that whole mentality kind of, I think, limits you on being able to enjoy a movie that is different, and that is a really different remake. It takes some of the same similar ideals, but it kind of changes them and mixes them around, and it comes up with a completely different type of movie. I think it's successful in that way. I think that if you walk into the remake with any preconceived notions based on the original, or the book, you won't enjoy it. Um,
I think what's really cool in the remake, the Pet Cemetery in the Indian burial ground scenes, they look a lot cooler in that one. They're like all foggy and mysterious looking. Here it looks cool in this one when they go there, but it's not like that. It's not like that. You don't have the ominous thing. It's just like they go up there and it's a big Indian burial ground and it's pretty bright, and it looks cool, and it obviously was a very big undertaking, I would assume, for the set design people, if it's like a they had to make that, but it doesn't have that ominous feel like it does in the remake or in the sequel to the prequel to the remake.
Yeah, there is a really good documentary on Pet Cemetery that shows how what they went through to make all of that. If I knew the name of it, I would tell everyone to go out and watch it because I believe it's readily available everywhere. Um, Ah, but it delves deep into all the stuff that they had to do to make the sets and to build the way up to the cemetery, the Indian burial
Yeah.
ground, and the people who actually built the pet cemetery. The fact that some of that stuff is still there where they built it because they just couldn't take it away. You know,
It
um,
is it looks different in this film. They shot it in Georgia. The original one they shot in Maine. So the Pet Cemetery looks different, and so does the thing they have to climb to get to the burial ground looks different as well.
mm. Oh, and just so everyone knows, that documentary, because I went ahead and quickly looked it up, it's called Unearthed and Untold: The Path to Pet Cemetery from 2017. Really great documentary that tells you everything you want to know. It's got some great interviews with most, if not all, the cast, if I remember correctly. Um, with this one, we haven't gotten that same kind of treatment, and I hate to say that this. I would like to know exactly how many people out there actually still remember this movie, much less what their opinions are of this movie. Because in my circle, no one's ever spoken about this movie. This movie has been one of those sequels that's just been completely forgotten. I don't know why, but I just know it has because this wasn't a straight to DVD film. This was a theatrical film. It had Edward Furlong at the beginning of his career, and I kind of wonder why people just don't ever talk about this movie.
I don't even I remember even when it first came out, a lot of people were not liking it, not liking the idea about them being a sequel, and they probably didn't like the first Pet Cemetery, and they're like, "Why is it going to be a second Pet Cemetery?" Like they hadn't even seen the first one, um, but I don't know. I mean, I've always been fond of the film. I don't. And, like what I said, I watched it a year ago. I was like a little didn't like it as much then, but I liked it better upon watching it this time. Maybe next time you watch it, you'll be like, okay, it's better than I thought it was. But
I think
yeah,
no, go ahead, go
what's
ahead, you go first.
yeah. I was just gonna say on the Scream Factory has the Blu-ray release of this. That is it's a 4K scan of the original camera negative, and so I would assume they'll eventually put out a 4K version of this that's going to look even better. But on that release, they have interviews with Edward Furlong, Clancy Brown, and Jason Patrick. uh, Jason Patrick looks a lot different. You would not recognize him at all. Maybe not even Edward Furlong if people hadn't seen him recently. But it's pretty cool, and that's fairly unique for. It's a lot harder now. On these boutique labels, they don't seem like they get the right interviews anymore with the main cast. But that's pretty cool, especially that they got Clancy Brown.
Hmm. Yeah, because I
And,
think
and
he's the only one who still works consistently, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but they all have a yeah, that's some pretty interesting things to say about the film. Like all three of them. Clancy Brown like had a fun time, obviously. So
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, he
but
was.
yeah,
I mean, even Edward Furlong, he's coming
yeah,
from Terminator 2 and he's doing a horror movie. Most people start off in the horror movies and then go to other things.
yeah.
He went from a big sci-fi movie to a string of horror movies before he did some indie movies. And even I hate to say this, people out there, even the few films that Edward Furlong did with Yui Bowl, the infamous Yui Bowl, he actually does a really good job in those films as well. So I'm not gonna ever knock Mr. Furlong because I tend to think that he's still a pretty decent little actor there. I can't say little. I say
Yeah.
little because he was little when he did this shit. He's a full fucking grown up now, still doing his craft. So
He's in the they did the remake of Night of the Demons. He's in that
yeah. Oh
not
yeah,
too long
and I
ago.
like that
Yeah,
remake.
yeah, yeah. It was good. It's good. A lot
So
better. Like I had to it took me two times to watch it. I kind of had to make myself watch it the second time, but the first time I tried to watch it, I just didn't click with me, and I made myself watch it another time after seeing the rest of them. And I
mm,
was like, I'm watching the remake too, and then I watched it. And I was like, you know what, this is pretty good. It's one of the better ones.
Yeah,
well, they're all pretty good except for maybe the third one.
I don't own the
Yeah.
third one. I was about to say I've seen the third one once.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of sequels. I saw it once, and since I never owned it, I never saw it again. I don't remember shit about the
Yeah.
third one.
It's not. I mean, yeah. I think it's the second one to me is the best one of them. But they did a release of them. I think 2 years ago or so from Scream Factory, but they released all three of them with pretty good transfers.
Oh
Especially
shit!
the first one. They did a 4K, but I got all three of them. They're good though. I think I mean I always have liked the second one. Probably that one's probably the one that got it right. I think the first one's good too though. It has a very 80s feel to it.
It's a very 80s film. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Okay. So, any other things you'd like to say about Pet Cemetery 2?
Well, I think I got through everything I had on here. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, for everyone listening to the podcast, we
Yeah.
tend to have notes of everything we want to make sure that we discuss about these films, and sometimes we get to all the notes, and sometimes we don't. It's actually always good that we actually get the time to go into all of our notes, so we don't want to forget stuff to tell you about the
Yeah.
movies.
Yeah, I should have saved something for the end, but yeah, I don't have anything else.
Okay. So with that, first of all, I want to thank you, Dave, for having this conversation with me on Pet Cemetery 2. What we like to do, everyone, at the end of the program is we like to rate the movie between the scale of 1 to 5 stars, one star being absolutely poor, 5 stars being excellent. Where on the spectrum, Dave, do you put Pet Cemetery 2?
Well, I'll give it 3.5 stars
Three and a half
on
stars.
this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm unfortunately gonna give it only 2.5 stars. For me, if I had, if it was, if I my feelings from it, like when I was a kid, I probably would have given it 3.5 stars because I must have seen this movie a billion times as a kid. But as a grown up, I this is probably the first time I've seen it in 20 plus years. And so I don't see it as
Yeah.
fondly as I did when I was much younger. I do think it is a worthy film to go out there and search for if you've never seen it. I do think it's worth seeing, not only because it has a great cast, and it also, I think the one thing me and Dave have agreed is that Clancy Brown seems to have way too much fucking fun in this movie and making every scene he's in an absolutely joy to watch. I do believe that we have agreed on that. And if you're a Clancy Brown fan, you should definitely check this one out because he steals the scenes in a lot of movies he's in, not just this one.
Yeah. 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 He is a great actor. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he's given enough props. I really don't. I think he's a great actor. I don't think he ever half-asses it in any movie he ever does. I think he brings it 125% in every movie, which makes it fun. He's one of those actors who looks like he's having fun.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
All right. So, with that, I hope that you've enjoyed this episode of Conversations in Horror. Make sure to check out all the other previous episodes we've done, including the one that we've done on Pet Cemetery. You need to make sure that you like, share, follow, subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode, especially if we decide to do the remake of Pet Cemetery and Pet Cemetery Bloodlines. We might do
I'm ready for it. I'll do
See, he's ready for
it.
it. So you
Yeah.
should be too. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Also, make sure to check out our sister podcast, Conversations in 4Color, which is our Patreon exclusive podcast. It is on our Patreon page, so make sure to check that out. And with that, I want to thank you all for joining the show. From everyone here at Something Wicked Entertainment, we want to wish you a pleasant day and keep watching those horror sequels. Have a good day. Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production, written, produced, and directed by Kevin L. Powers, executive producer Kelly A. Inoka. All contents and material from this episode of Conversations in Horror is copyright 2025 Broken Lighthouse Pictures.